Good morning, everyone. It's Tess, and today is tip 157. I just got back from being outside. I got my 5:30 walk-in and watered the garden. Today I'm getting rid of COVID here for the first time since this all started. But today I decided I wanted to talk about circadian rhythm. When I started researching, I was looking for articles on like how many meals a day we should eat, what time of the day we should eat. And I'm going to tell you there are articles all over the place on that. There's no definite answer. You could, no matter what stance you want to take on it, you could find an article to support that stance. So I thought I was going to approach this in another different way. I do tend to follow like what Doc V says. I don't wake up and eat immediately. And what I try to do is I narrow the number of hello, whoever that is, I can't tell, but good morning. But I try to, well, hi, Sam. I try to narrow the number of hours a day that I eat because as a bariatric patient, and as Doc V said, most of us can't be trusted to eat in a larger window of time because we eat too much. And I found that I've been more successful this past year when I've gotten away from this idea of I've got to put something in my mouth every, hello. I've got to put something in my mouth every 2.5 to 3 hours. I got to get up and I got to get breakfast because I got to get my body started and all this stuff. So I've been trying to learn more about it. And I think really it's going to come down to what you can manage as a person and what you're willing to commit to it as a person, and starting to understand and learn about your body. How do you feel? Do you need food in the morning in order to get you started in your day? Do you have better energy when you wait a little bit longer? How much food do you really need? When should you stop eating so that your body is not trying to process food while you're trying to sleep? And I found articles about the circadian rhythm, and we all know the circadian rhythm. Here, I'll actually read what it says. Basically, what is circadian rhythm? And it kind of talks about your circadian rhythm is basically a 24-hour internal clock that is running in the background of your brain, and it cycles between sleepiness and alertness at regular intervals. It's also known as your sleep-wake cycle, and this is from the National Sleep Foundation. So when I started looking at this, I think I'm going to I do follow a plan of getting up at the same time every day and going to sleep at the same time every day. And I think what I'm going to find with this is that it does produce natural times when my body is producing melatonin because it's time to sleep, or when it's producing, and it was interesting in these articles, when it produces insulin because it knows that I'm in that wake cycle where there'll be food coming in. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to look at it. So maybe why different diets work for different people has to do with this circadian rhythm, what time of day they're awake, what time of day they're asleep. So I guess what I would do is each one of us, I think, is going to have to learn what works best for us. I know I tend to get up really early and try to get stuff out of the way before the workday starts. So it does talk about your circadian rhythm as kind of like 2 12-hour segments. So you've got a 12-hour segment that your body's producing insulin, and you've got a 12-hour segment that it's producing melatonin. Now again, I'm not medical. I'm just trying to learn and understand what works best for my body. And each of us has to kind of learn what works best for our body. And so what I'm going to kind of do is I'm not going to jump on food the second I get up in the morning, because truly when I get up, the sun's not even up yet. And I don't want to open the window and be eating for 12 hours because I'll probably eat too much. I think Doc V is right. If we've struggled with our weight, we eat too much food. And if you give me more hours to eat, I'm going to eat too much. So I think I'm going to kind of follow this idea of if we have a natural cycle and our body is producing melatonin to sleep at night, and insulin to help us process food during the day, then it makes sense to stop eating a couple hours. Good morning, Glenn. It makes sense to stop eating a few hours before you go to bed, and it makes sense to in the morning when you get up and you get moving around, and more hours to learn to embrace hunger. Yeah. And then when you start eating, knowing that your body's going to produce the insulin. Now, I know all of this is different, and the circadian rhythm article is kind of interesting because it does make sense. Our bodies are operating on some kind of a system. what I don't want to do is take this circadian rhythm of 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours producing insulin, 12 hours producing melatonin for sleep. I don't want to turn that into an opportunity for 12 hours of eating, because eating got me in trouble. Eating allowed me a window to gain weight, and eating put me in a place where I ended up having surgery. So I'm going to narrow the window of hours I'm eating, but keeping in mind that I want it to be maybe right in the middle of that 12-hour insulin time. Knowing that a couple hours before bed, I don't want to be triggering my body to produce insulin, and knowing that early in the morning, I don't want to trigger my body to start producing it too soon. So I want to give it more time I want less time for the food to be invited into my body. But this was kind of really interesting in thinking about the circadian rhythm, because a lot of what we've been learning about is the science behind stuff. And the science really truly is that we've heard about that circadian rhythm, about the wake and sleep cycle, and they talk about how nobody talks about the connection with food, but I think it does make sense. And knowing and thinking, and if it helps you, it kind of helps me to go, later at night, I don't want to be eating, because I don't want to introduce, hi Jane Ross, I don't want to introduce foods that will create a need for my body to produce insulin, which is going to slow down the production of melatonin, so that my sleep is going to be disrupted. So I think really for me, 12 hours is going to be too long to be open for an insulin window, so I'm going to narrow it down. And they're not even saying, they're saying that 12 hours is the most that somebody should have open as food opportunities. I do think Doc V's right in keeping it 7 to 8 hours. None of us is starving. And if we are starving, it's because of our choices of food. It's not because of the number of hours we're eating or the number of meals. It's our choices of food. I do believe that prior to surgery, I was malnourished. I had actually had testing when I was getting infusions, and I was low on certain vitamins. And I know it was because of the choices of food I made before. So I'm not sure if this will help you. I'm going to continue looking into this, even connected to like the intuitive eating from my Dr. V's Transform Your Life talk last night. I just want to learn my body and learn what science is saying about it, because fad diets have gotten me nowhere. Trying to think that I understand it all has really gotten me in trouble too. So I want to go to the science. I want to see what the science is saying. I kind of understand this, not in a medical way, but this idea of the circadian rhythm has interested me enough to help me to narrow the window of time that I'm eating, knowing that I don't want my body to be in an insulin producing window when I'm trying to get ready to go to bed. And I don't want to trigger it on too early in the morning either, because that's when I get in trouble. But this is a Forbes article, and there were several articles out there about circadian rhythm, and there's actually even books on the circadian rhythm diet. But I'm not even like trying to push books, because I haven't read a book on it. I'm just trying to understand the science and how the body works. We all know that sleep cycles are wake and sleep, and that's circadian rhythm. So for me, I think it makes sense that circadian rhythm would relate to our food. And really, in this article, they're saying 12 hours is the max that you would ever want that insulin window open in your body. And I think Doc V's right. Those of us who have problems with food need to narrow it down. So this is just something to think about, and maybe this is why it's difficult for some people. If your sleep-wake pattern is different than the rest of us, maybe that's why certain diets don't work for you, because maybe your body is used to triggering your insulin and your melatonin at times that correlate with what your schedule is. So I think really it's truly about all of us learning about our own bodies and how we make the most of this tool that God's given us and use it as efficiently as we can. And the science is there as a tool to help us. But again, the best gift we can give ourselves is to learn our own body. And I'll let you guys go now, because I'm off to get rid of COVID here. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for listening. And just think about it. Maybe you can do a little bit about making sure that you let your body slow down so the melatonin can come in to let you sleep better, and then give it a little time before you start introducing that insulin cycle to processed food. Have a beautiful day, and we'll talk soon. And as I read more about this, I'll let you know. Thanks.